Basically, martial arts are a set of fighting skills of Chinese tradition. Kicking, beating, falling and catching are the basic skills that are practiced and sharpened in it. In martial arts, attacking is demonstrated by bare hands or even with weapons according to the technique being taught. Chess technique of Chinese tradition is used as a base in martial arts practice or battles. As per the social life in China, martial arts can never be exclusive. It is found that martial arts are richer compared to other fighting styles around the globe. It is richer in every aspect such as fighting techniques, grappling techniques, etc. Moreover, they possess traditional characteristics unlike modern fighting styles. Skills described in martial arts are separated into various categories such as hand-to-hand, combined and separated. The development process of martial arts is very much different compared to other fighting styles in the world. In the practice of martial arts, internal and external studies are as important as studies of spirit and forms. The Chinese tradition of fighting is purely reflected in applications of martial arts. Moreover, martial arts are also a kind of sports. The main reason behind this is that it does not describe any fighting skills that will hurt people. It is all about self-defense. Martial arts are full of rich skills that are used in order to develop one's physical quality and defense capability. To do so, practice and fighting are used in terms of capability and skills. Practical techniques of martial arts are different in their theoretical description. However, hand-to-hand practice is much similar to fighting. Moreover, it is limited to be a fighting sport thanks to the regulation of competitions related to modern martial arts. Martial arts is a package of specific attributes of physical education that is related to social philosophy, medical science of traditional China, ethics, weaponry, aesthetics, Qigong of modern martial arts, etc. Wisdom of Chinese physical education reflects from the practice of martial arts. Natural characteristics of Eastern culture are indirectly reflected in studies of martial arts. Rather than just being a national sport or fighting style, it is a precious cultural legacy. This legacy had been accumulated by Chinese culture since a long period of time now, and the process is still going on in entire East Asian countries. Scope and variations in martial arts. Martial art is a broad term. Despite of being an individual fighting technique, it contains many concepts of fighting that can be called sub-fighting techniques of martial arts. A single criterion is not just enough in order to categorize martial arts. Thus, it is categorized along a number of criteria. If historical aspects are considered, martial arts can be divided into three categories that are as following: traditional or historical martial arts, contemporary styles of folk wrestling, modern martial arts, hybrid martial arts, unequal combination of all categories above. Martial arts are divided into two major categories according to the techniques. These categories are further divided into various sub-techniques which make it most complex distribution of martial arts. Armed martial arts, unarmed martial arts. Moreover, martial arts are divided into following subcategories: swordsmanship, stick fighting, etc. Like armed martial arts, unarmed martial arts too are divided into following subcategories: grappling, striking, stand-up fighting, ground fighting. Applications and intents are other major facts to be considered while categorizing martial arts. According to them, martial arts can be divided into following subcategories: self-defense, combat sports, choreography, demonstration form, physical fitness practice, meditation. However, according to ancient Chinese tradition, martial arts can be divided into two major categories only: external, internal. These are the major criteria that are considered in modern martial arts. However, only two of them are studied while practicing modern martial arts, since they cover most of the sectors in martial arts. They are by application and by technique. This chapter is particularly dedicated to describe these two major categorizations of martial arts. Here we go. First, categorization of martial arts based on technical focus. A. Unarmed martial arts. This category of martial arts can be broadly grouped into three groups that are focusing off strikes, focusing on grappling, and those that cover both of the field and practical implement. The third group described in this category is often referred to hybrid martial arts. Both striking and grappling can cover both grounds, so we will cover them only. Strikes. There are many martial arts styles that are mainly based on striking on the opponent. They are divided into categories such as kicking and punching. In punching style, boxing, Wing Chun and Taekwondo are included. Kicking style includes capoeira, savate and Taekwondo. There are some styles that are not based on any specific techniques and use both of them equally. Such hybrid techniques include karate, Muay Thai and Sanshou. Grappling. Grappling does not only mean to grab or lock or forcefully hold someone. Main goal of grappling is to make someone submit himself and forfeit from combat. It is widely being used in modern and hybrid combat competitions and casual fights. There are several styles in which grappling can be performed or carried out. Throwing is one of them. Throwing technique is vastly implemented in Hapkido, Judo, sumo wrestling, etc. Joint lock, choke holds and submissions holds are also famous styles of grappling technique. They are majorly applied in fighting sports such as Hapkido, Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Sambo. Pinning techniques are also a part of grappling techniques. However, their practical use is limited to Judo and wrestling only. B. Armed or weapon-based martial arts. Traditional martial arts that are related with armed combat are encompassed within a wide spectrum of various kinds of weapons. Such weapons include melee weapons only. These weapons can be bladed weapons or polearms. Many traditions include armed martial arts such as eskrima, silat, kalaripayat, kobudo, and historical European martial arts. They are a major part of German Renaissance. Weapons are a part of regular practices and combats in many Chinese origin martial arts. Many martial arts styles prefer to use only one kind of weapon at a time in practices and combats. This tradition is famous in Japan especially. Not only in traditional martial arts, many modern and hybrid martial arts do follow the same concept. For example, modern Western martial arts, modern fencing, stick fighting, canned combat, single stick, modern competitive, archery, etc. Second, categorization of martial arts based on applications or intents. Martial arts are divided in three categories based on their application or personal or in-group intentions behind applying or using them against any individual or group. These categories are as following. A. Combat-oriented martial arts. This category will not be discussed in this chapter or entire book since it is no more considered as a sport. If one tends to use martial art, fighting styles or techniques in order to defend himself or herself or hurt someone in real-time combat, the martial arts are referred as combat-oriented technique. It is a real battle in which individuals are trying to save themselves from hurting and attacking others with intentions of beating them down completely until they surrender or simply run away. B. Health-oriented martial arts. This category is majorly related to many martial arts, especially those from Asia. These martial arts tend to teach side disciplines that are useful in maintaining health and are considered as medical practice by martial art itself. Many medical practices are taught in traditional Asian martial arts, such as bone setting, herbalism, and other techniques and practices related to traditional medicine. C. Spiritually oriented martial arts. In many terms, martial arts are related with religion and spirituality. Numerous techniques and practices were found and developed by monks or nuns. Of course, they practiced and applied those techniques too. Throughout the entire Asia, meditation is important in both physical and mental training. It is treated as a way to achieve enlightenment according to many countries that are heavily influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism. Japanese martial arts are greatly influenced with Mahayana Buddhist philosophy when it comes to non-physical aspects related to combat. Spiritual development is considered as important as physical strength in traditional Korean martial arts. Not only in Asia, such concepts or tradition of inner spirituality is followed by many countries that are more or less influenced by techniques and styles of martial arts. Ancient medieval history of martial arts. Historical martial arts. An ancient Egyptian painting that is dated somewhere around 3400 BC shows some sort of struggle between two individuals. This painting is the oldest artwork that portrays scenes of battle. If we come a little bit further, in 3000 BC, there were poems and reliefs found in Mesopotamia, or say Babylon, which describe struggles related to some sort of combats. Armed combat such as sword, stick, bow and spears were described in ancient painting and sketches of Vietnam that were dated around 2879 BC. Chinese martial arts are originated in the era of Jia dynasty that existed around 4000 years ago. The earliest fighting system was introduced by Yellow Emperor Huangdi in the ending period of 27th BC century in China. This Yellow Emperor was a general who wrote valuable material related to medicine, astrology and martial arts before he was crowned as emperor. His opponent, Qi Yu, is said to be the forerunner to the modern Chinese wrestling and also the creator of Jiao Di. A blend of early Chinese and Indian martial arts provided base for the rise of Asian martial arts. In warring state periods in China, 480 to 221 BC, martial arts went through a period of intense development. The fact is also described in a book named The Art of War by Sun Tzu, that is dated 350 BC. The earliest written evidence of martial arts in southern India is found back into the period of 2nd century BC to 2nd century AD. When talking about Europe, the earliest proofs to martial arts are found in traditions of ancient Greece. If proofs are to be believed, boxing, wrestling and pancration were a part of ancient Olympic Games of Greece. For instance, gladiatorial combat was represented as public spectacle to serve entertainment. Multiple combat manuals are found from European Middle Ages. With unarmed combats, sword and shield fighting, two-handed sword fighting and other male weapon combats are described in those documents. Likewise, Asian martial arts started to be well documented in medieval era. Japanese martial arts followed the same pattern with the rise of samurais in 12th century AD. Ming era treatises such as Ji Chao Qing Shu triggered the rise of Chinese martial arts. Indian medieval texts such as Agni Purana and Mala Purana describe the journey of Indian martial arts. Korean martial arts started to be well documented during Joseon era in texts like Muejebo in 1598 AD. Swordsmanship of Europe was always a sportive component, however turned into the form of duel until World War I. Codification of instructions done by French and Italian military academies triggered the development of sport fencing in early 19th century. Olympic Games tend to follow standard international rules as International Federation was formed in 1913 AD for martial art-related activities and sports. Until early 19th century, modern boxing was based on Jack Broughton's rules. It shifted to Marquis Queensberry rules in 1867. Folk styles in martial arts. A number of traditional combat sports and fighting styles are there around the globe. Each of them is related with a certain local culture and folklore. Folk wrestling is the most common form of these styles around the globe. Folk wrestling is being practiced since antiquity. You can rarely find a culture or tradition in which such traditional combat or folk wrestling does not exist. Stick fighting and boxing can be example for this very same statement. It is certain that these arts find their roots in historical traditions and folklore. However, they cannot be called historical in such sense that they are constructed or maintained in specific era of time. Instead, they are contemporary regional sports. These sports coexist with modern style, techniques and forms of modern martial arts. Most of such martial art techniques were formed in the 19th century. Cross-fertilization between such sports and folk styles is often encountered in many of such martial arts. Muay Thai is a great example to explain this theory. Muay Thai is a traditional Thai art that is now a modern national sport of Thailand. This sport is now practiced around the globe and has significantly contributed in the development of modern martial arts hybrid styles such as kickboxing and mixed martial arts. Morris dancing is developed by using English martial arts named single stick as base. There are many European dance forms that share noticeable elements of martial arts. Ukrainian hopak, Polish boinitsky, the Czech dance odzemek, and the Norwegian halling are a great example for such martial arts. Modern history of martial arts. The period from late 19th century to present year has been fascinating for development of modern and traditional martial arts. It has witnessed so many important events that this phase of development is divided into various phases, mostly based on time period. Late 19th century to early 20th century. Mid to late 19th century is considered the phase in which the development of martial arts as modern sports began. Such development used traditional fighting systems as base. In European countries, modern sports such as boxing and fencing were developed through their traditional martial arts. In this very same period, judo, karate, jiu-jitsu and kendo were rising as modern sport in Japan. All of them were very heavily influenced with Edo period martial art that was suppressed in the period of Meiji Restoration. Modern Muay Thai was developed in 1920s in Thailand. Modern Chinese martial arts began to develop in 1930s. 1920s are known as the period of Nanjing Decade. Moreover, the development continued with a boost as Central Gushu Institute was established in AD 1928. This institution was established and supported by Kuomintang government, which was a great supporter of traditions as well as martial arts. By the end of 19th century, trade was well established between China, Japan and United States. With improving trades, cultural exchange was also developed. It eventually caused Western people to have a specific interest in Asian martial arts. There were some Western practitioners of Asian martial arts who left noticeable performance in their respective field. Edward William Barton Wright was a railway engineer who worked in Japan between 1894 and 1897. He was also studying jiu-jitsu in the meantime. Later on, he became the first man to officially teach Eastern martial arts in Europe. This is not the only achievement of this great man. He combined jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, boxing and savate and stick fighting in order to create a totally new eclectic fighting style. He named this style Bartitsu. Fencing and Greco-Roman wrestling managed to make their place in the Olympic Games of 1896 summer. 1904 was a magnificent year for the field of martial arts. In this very same year, FILA, Wrestling World Championship and boxing at the Summer Olympics were introduced. First belt in wrestling or boxing was awarded back in the 1909, named Lonsdale Belt. Now, as we know, it has become a tradition to award belts in wrestling and boxing championships to the winners of special events or title holders. 20th century, 1914 AD to 1989 AD. In 1920, International Boxing Association was established. It was the year of 1921, since when World Fencing Championships are being held. A great number of military persons spent time in Eastern Asia during Korean War and World War II. They stayed in China, Korea and Japan for a quite long period of time. These people were heavily impressed and exposed to local fighting techniques and styles. These events caused a quick boost to Western influence in Asia. 1950s and 1960s was the time of Jiu-Jitsu, Judo and Karate. These styles were quite popular in that era. Many Hollywood movies were based on martial arts. These movies are a clear sign that most sectors of American martial arts is either derived from or influenced with Asian martial arts. Japanese boxer Osamu Noguchi was greatly influenced by karate and Muay Thai. In 1950s, he merged them unequally and formed kickboxing. American kickboxing is a completely different term, as it is a combination of boxing and karate that was developed in 1970s. Before that, in 1950s, context of Korean War caused the development of Taekwondo. Till the date, 1960s and 1970s is known as the era of Bruce Lee. He grabbed extra media attention towards Chinese martial arts. He founded a fighting system named Jeet Kune Do that was highly influenced by Western boxing, Wing Chun, savate and fencing. Bruce Lee is considered one of those first instructors who taught Chinese martial arts to Western peoples openly. World Judo Championships are being held since 1656. On the other hand, 1970 was the year for the first Karate World Championship. Judo was introduced in Summer Olympics in 1964. Kung Fu Wave was released in Hong Kong action cinema in 1970s. Following this, there was many other action movies based on martial arts released during 1980s. These movies contributed a lot in developing interest of Western popular culture in martial arts. Most popular movies based on martial arts are The Karate Kid, released in 1984, and The Bloodsport, released in 1988. 20th century was the period in which martial arts began to inherit by military academies. A number of martial arts styles and techniques were inherited from military hand-to-hand combat in order to improve self-defense. This tradition was followed by World War II combative K-Pap in 1930s, Krav Maga in 1950s, in Israel, Sistema in Soviet era, Russia and San Shou in People's Republic of China. This system was implemented by US military as well during the period of Cold War. However, they revived it with the introduction of line system that was introduced in 1989. 1990 to present. In 1990s, mixed martial arts competitions such as UFC and Pride were famous enough. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was popular style that was effective in mixed martial arts too. First pancrase competition was held in the year of 1993. 1980s, Seido Kaikan was used as a base in order to prepare the rule set named K1 TAT applied for kickboxing from the year it was presented in. In recent years, Jackie Chan and Jet Li have managed to prove them identical movie figures who have contributed a lot in order to promote Chinese martial arts. Thanks to the discovery of medieval and Renaissance fighting manuals, historical European martial arts and other Western martial arts are grown popular in United States and Europe. Practical practice of these martial arts is also growing much faster in United States and many European countries. Recently, in 2011, Taki Kaun was inscribed by UNESCO on Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list. Reviving of lost martial arts. Unfortunately, many martial arts that existed in southern India were banned by British colonial government. However, some of them managed to survive, such as Kalurapayattu and Silambam. People of that era managed to save these martial arts by lying to British government that they were nothing but traditional dance forms. Varma Kalai is a martial art that concentrated on vital points. It was almost reaching the dead condition, but fortunately now is being revived. Testing and competition. It is natural for martial artists of various disciplines to wish determining their own progress and level of skills according to a certain context. It makes testing and evaluation an important aspect in the field of various martial arts. Belt or title tradition is famous in many martial arts such as karate and wrestling. Students are supposed to go through periodic tests in order to grade their level of skills and determine if they are ready to get the next level, belt or title or not. Such periodic tests are conducted by the teacher or say trainers of these students or practitioners. The type of such test may vary field to field, art to art and system to system. However, any kind of such tests include various forms of sparring. Nowadays, use of such sparring forms in exhibitions and tournaments related to martial arts is common. There are some competitions that put two martial artists from different disciplines or style against each other. Same set of rules are applied for both opponents. Such tournaments are often referred as mixed martial arts tournament or MMA events. Rules for sparring may vary between art to art and organization. However, they are generally divided into three categories: light contact, medium contact, full contact. These reflect the amount of force that is allowed to put or used against the opponent. Following is detailed discussion about these sparring rules. Light contact and medium contact. In these types of sparring, the amount of force to be applied on the opponent is restricted. In light contact variants, touch contact is allowed. For example, punch should be pulled back as soon as it makes contact with any body parts of the opponents. Medium contact is often referred as semi-contact spar. In medium or semi-contact, punch does not need to be pulled back on contact. However, contestants or say martial artists are not allowed to use full force in the punch or any other kind of attacks. Since the amount of applied force is restricted, it is not possible to use knocking out opponent as a measure to success. As a solution, a point system is used in such competitions. This point system is very similar as boxing match rule set. There is a referee that monitors the fouls and for controlling the match. In the meantime, judges are there for marking down scores. Particular body parts are marked as prohibited targets. Many techniques are forbidden too, such as head, butting or groin hits. Fighters are required to wear safety equipment on various body parts. There are many techniques, such as Aikido, that use similar method for compliant training that is very much equal to light and medium contact. In certain styles, score points are based on the landing of a technique or strike. Completion of such techniques is judged by referee. On such completion, referee would stop the match, mark the points and then resume the match again. As an alternate method, sparring may be continued as soon as the points are noted by the judges. This system is criticized by many critics and martial artists as well. According to these people, this system teaches various habits that eventually result in lower combat effectiveness. In simple words, artists of this system cannot match a freestyle martial artist. Lighter contact is used when training children or beginners since it is appropriate in such situations. Medium contact is commonly used when training for full contact. Full contact. As the name implies, in full contact sparring competitions, attacks and strikes are packed with full possible force. Since there is a huge difference between force level, it holds a number of tactical differences compared to low and medium contact sparring. This technique or sparring system is widely applied in the practices of realistic unarmed combats. A full contact sparring match can be won in two possible ways: either knock out the opponent or force him to submit. There is a scoring system too. However, it is only considered if no clear winner is decided by other means. In MMA competitions such as UFC 1, there was no scoring system. Now most of them use scoring system, but only as a backup. The rules restrict some techniques and force safety equipment. Yet full contact matches are most aggressive format of martial art competitions. Martial sports. As forms of sparring tend to become competitive, martial arts manage to cross over into sports. As it became a sport in its own right, it is dissociated with the original origin that was in combative form. Western fencing is a great example for it. Following arts are included in Summer Olympic Games: Judo, Taekwondo, Western archery, boxing, javelin, wrestling, fencing. Despite of being widely performed in world-class tournaments around the globe, Chinese wushu failed to make its place in the events of Olympic Games. Many practitioners are training for kickboxing and Brazilian jiu-jitsu in order to prepare themselves for sport matches. Many schools believe that practicing martial arts and organizing competitions breeds more efficient practitioners and builds good sportsmanship among them. Other martial arts such as Aikido are being practiced for competitions around the world. There was a trend of figuring out which martial art is best. This trend led to many inter-style competitions. These competitions were fought between martial artists from different fields and style fighting under the same set of rules. Limitations were minimal in such competitions. This was the first originated form of Ultimate Fighting Championship known as UFC. These sports are now evolved in mixed martial arts such as combat sports. There are many modern variations developed from traditional martial arts. These also include non-sparring competitions that are considered the most aggressive format among all types of martial arts combat. Health benefits and application. Health and fitness benefits. Training martial arts throws several benefits towards the trainings. It benefits their physical, mental, emotional and spiritual health in several possible ways. When a person went through the systematic practice of martial arts, his whole body is exercised. Entire muscular system is included in this process. It eventually increases his strength, stamina, flexibility, movements, etc. Martial arts also help to improve mental fitness as well. It improves our control over esteem, emotions and spiritual flaws. Thus, many martial arts schools try to maintain the historical and traditional form of martial arts while teaching or, say, practicing it. According to Bruce Lee, martial art actually holds the nature of art, since emotional communication and emotional expressions are involved while practicing or applying it. With physical strength, practitioners must also draw their focus towards mental and spiritual health. The most efficient way to understand something is to feel it. When practitioners will feel the spirituality that lies behind the shades, they will get attracted to it as they did with physical strengths. Mental health was always a part of martial arts as physical strength was. To keep martial art in original shape, we should never underestimate any of them if we want to keep martial arts in the way it was in our history and to maintain its traditional form. Application in self-defense, military and law enforcement applications. Modern military training uses many concepts and ideas from traditional martial arts. Muscle memory technique is used in point shooting. It is the most modern example of martial art being applied in military and law enforcement. This technique is used for increasing effectiveness of firearm in different awkward circumstances and situations. It is the same way in which an Iaidoka practices faster movements with their sword in order to increase effect in their strikes. During the World War II era, William E. Fairbairn and Eric A. Sykes were recruited in Special Operations Executive (SOE). Their job was to teach a martial art known as Defendu and pistol shooting to various armed special forces from UK, US and Canada. Western boxing and jiu-jitsu are derived from the traditional Defendu. Colonel Rex Applegate wrote a book known as Kill or Get Killed, based on Defendu techniques. Techniques from Defendu are now become classic works in hand-to-hand combats. Today, there are many composite systems developed for wars. In these systems, there are many traditional martial arts techniques that are used, such as hand-to-hand, knife and sparring techniques. Following are some great examples. European Unfight, combative systems developed by US Army. Krav Maga and Kapap developed by Israeli Army. MCMAP, Marine Corps martial arts program of Marine Corps. The rifle-mounted bayonet is originated in the spear. It is seen being used by United States Army, United States Marine Corps and British Army recently in Iraq War. Many martial arts are being practiced by many law enforcement groups in order to prepare for hand-to-hand combats. Aikido used by law enforcers of Tokyo is a great example for this statement. Martial arts industry. 1970s are considered golden time for martial arts as an industry. This was the time when martial arts began to rise as well-established and world-class industry. It is now a part of many wider industries such as sport industry, cinema and sport television. Not only this, the practical implementations and practices are also rose significantly in meantime. There are hundreds of millions of people that are engaged with one of the many forms and styles of martial arts. Web Japan, which is sponsored by Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, claims that karate is being practiced by more than 50 million worldwide practitioners. An estimate was published by South Korean government in the year of 2009, which claimed that there are 70 million practitioners of Taekwondo in 190 different countries around the world. In the year of 2007, the martial arts-related sports equipment shipped in USA helped the estimated wholesale value of $314 million United States dollars. In that very same year, the participation was estimated around 6.9 million. Only 6 years old or more were calculated in this figure. The total participation was around 2% of total United States population. However, 2007 was not the year in which martial art began to be famous in. The process was already begun back in 2003. In 2003, CEO of Martial Arts Channel RA Court presented their estimate. In their estimate, they claimed that martial arts industry of United States earned around $40 million in that very same year. They also represented the total number of US practitioners that was around 30 million. Equipments. There are various types of equipments included in certain styles of martial art techniques, such as those used for conditioning, those used for protection, and those used as weapons. Breaking boards, dummy partners, wooden dummy, punching bags, and makiwara are included in specialized conditioning equipment. Protective equipment for sparring and competitions include boxing gloves and headgear. Martial arts fraud. In 1970s, popularity of Asian martial arts was at their peak in Western countries. The demand was rising constantly and proper knowledge holders were limited. These inequality eventually resulted in low-quality and fraudulent schools. Martial arts movies were full of fictional depictions. This eventually led to the ninja craze in 1980s in United States. There were comic books named Circa in 1960s and 1970s. These comics were full of fraud ads related to pay martial arts training and practicing programs. These ads were mainly targeted at adolescent boys since these comics were read by these boys only. In 1970s, martial arts were kind of new in United States and surrounding Western country. In that era, lower ranks began to distribute colorful belts to show progress, even if not deserved. Such color belt system was inherited by many commercially viable martial arts degree mills. This was nothing but a simple way to generate extra cash. Such bills charged extra cash for higher-level belt or scores. Martial arts faced many ups and downs in the beginning period. This beginning period does not refer to its development. This term refers to the era of 1970s. It was the time when martial arts were totally new for Western world, including United States. It was not a well-established industry in that era. Many people took advantage of it and tried to generate as much money as possible from this industry, even by frauds. Such people caused a lot of damage to this industry. However, it managed to survive and, as we know it, is one of the well-established sports and entertainment industry in the Western world.